let's pick up on the very issue that we are leading with this morning, and that is the public spat between government and the private sector. This is over the currency manipulation saga. Minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, blaming the private sector of trying to collapse government, she said. However, the business sector hitting back, saying the minister's comments just could be a scapegoat for government's failure. British multinational bank Standard Chartered admitting to engaging in currency manipulation and has been slapped with a 42 million rand fine, while the Competition Commission is investigating 27 other banks. Let's get some perspective now, and we speak to political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou, who joins us via the phone line. And Dr. Ndou, thank you for your time. Perhaps viewers may be keen to know why you're not on video this morning, and that's because you are load shared. We'll get into that in a moment because it is part of what the business sector is arguing here. But let's deal first with what is at the heart of this public dispute, and that is that the banks engaged in currency manipulation. We can say that as a fact now because Standard Chartered has come out to say, yes, we were involved, but we were not the only ones, and we are going to possibly testify against others. Do they owe the South African public an explanation for what they did? But add to that, should there be consequences against these banks?
Good morning, Toli. Good morning to the viewers at home. Indeed, I am load shedding. We should have used other channels of communication. But that is the situation of the day in South Africa. You don't expect a situation where you would have a situation where the public and the private sector would be engaged in the spat like we are actually experiencing now. You expect a situation where both government and the private sector are able to work together in ensuring that indeed they are able to strive together and at the same time work in the best interests of the citizens or the people that they actually serve. We are not going to have a discussion anymore whether there was indeed collusion or not. It has been confirmed that collusion has actually taken place. My view is that if indeed this is the case, you now need a situation where we need to move to the next step. And my expectation is not to get any institution trying to defend itself and try to justify wrongdoing.
Yeah.
I would expect the two to come together and map the way forward. If indeed the minister could have raised issues or have actually gone far, it might also be informed by the frustrations that as leaders of government could be going through. But the unfortunate part is that both the government and the private sector are wrong, and my expectation is that in the best interest of South Africa, they should be able to come together and map a positive way forward.
You've already touched on the issue as to whether or not Minister Ntshavheni may have gone too far in her comments when she says the private sector is involved in weakening and perhaps even attempts to collapse the government. But this is where the business sector has come out fighting, because they're saying that actually we do not have any reason to do that because this very government is engaged in self-sabotage anyway. I wonder if the team has that soundbite ready of the CEO of Business Leadership South Africa, because I just want for the viewers to hear themselves the view of Business Leadership South Africa CEO, Mavuso. I'm hoping that we can take that first and then we continue the conversation. In fact, the soundbite is ready, Dr. Ndou, so just give us a moment. Listen to this.
The minister's comments and claims are absolutely ludicrous. The government doesn't need our help in running this country down. They are doing a very good job of that on their own. And this is as a result of their own incapability, of their own incompetence, of the system of cadre deployment that we've been lamenting on for quite some time now. You know, if she claims that the failures of South Africa because of the private sector, then I guess we are responsible for the failure in education and the failure in healthcare and the failure of municipalities. City of Joburg having had 8 mayors in the last 2 years. You know, the failure of transport and logistics, the load shedding that we are currently all battling as a country, the water crisis, the fact that you've got thieves masquerading as government officials, and the list goes on.
Dr. Ndou, did Minister Ntshavheni stir up a hornet's nest? Did she touch a nerve here?
Well, Minister Ntshavheni has to go out and vent her frustrations and put the facts on the table, which unfortunately business is not disputing. The fact of the matter is that there has been an acknowledgement by Standard Chartered that indeed we've participated in the coalition. And whether government has got its own failures, government has got plenty of failures which has been highlighted, it does not make coalition right. So my view is that with all the failures that government has and with all the wrongdoings that a business has actually done, in the sense of patriotism, and if we want to build the nation, these two has to come together in order to make the way forward. There has been numerous discussions that talks to public-private partnership in many initiatives in South Africa, either at provincial level, at building local economy, and many other ventures. And that's why we need these two to be able to come together and make the way forward. At the same time, you also need government to be hands-on in terms of ensuring that rules and regulations that have to deal with the economy, which has to prevent any wrongdoing, has to be monitored on a regular basis. And I get a sense, maybe that is the sense that most people will be getting, that when government is complaining, then the private sector would say, you also have your own failures, so the best thing is to keep quiet. And I think that is not the right approach. But at the same time, government must also be able to perform its responsibilities in a manner that citizens have got very few issues to complain about. And unfortunately in South Africa, citizens have got more issues to complain about rather than to be satisfied with what government is actually doing. And that is one area, in my view, that government has to focus on. Equally, we need a patriotic business or private sector that should work in the best interest of all of us.
Dr. Ndou, at a time when I think ordinary South Africans are looking for leadership, and might I add, mature leadership, a unity of purpose, if you like, between these two sides. But here we are, and I hate to ask the question, but I've got to, because South Africans must at least rest knowing that there is one party that is perhaps more credible than the other. Is that too shallow a question to ask, to say who's more credible in the eyes of the public when these two sides are going to take each other on in this way?
Well, I think probably the first thing is that we might still be in an era of emotions. And government might be saying, now that there is this collusion that has been exposed, maybe we can still be able to go out to the public and say, you don't only have to blame government on the challenges that you are facing because there is collusion going on. But at the same time, business would also be saying, or the private sector will also be saying, even though there is collusion that has been going on, there are a lot of wrong things that your government has not been able to deal with. Hence, they talk about issues of governance that has frustrated a lot of people that are staying in the metros. Hence, they talk about load shedding, the education system, the health system, and many, many other issues. And my view is that this era of emotions could pass and then have both the private and the public sector to rearrange how they have to work together in building South Africa. And I still believe that that is possible.
Final question. How do they mend fences? You spoke about the public-private partnerships here, and that is the partnership that government has been saying for a long time, and indeed the business sector, if you listen to what Kes Kuvadia has been saying, and that is to donate skills to government because it is sorely lacking in very many areas. How do they bridge this gap? Because we do need these two sectors to work together if this country is to go forward.
There has been a number of initiatives in which both the private and the public sector had to come together. When the presidency will talk about the job summit, it will always be between the public and the private sector. When they talk about building the local economy or resuscitating the local economy, it will always be between government, private and public sector. When they talk about initiatives to ensure that communities in rural areas are developed, it will always be that partnership. But there appears to be, in my view, a sense where there is no constant monitoring and the strengthening of these relations between the two. And my view is that when all this is settled, they should still be able to come together and ensure that they are able to work together, but at the same time, do it in the best interest of the citizens. Because when there is coalition, when these two are actually fighting, those who suffer is you and I.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Dr. Levy Ndou, let me thank you very much for your time and indeed your contribution to this discussion.